name is Gail, and I'm a proud mom of a Wish kid who is my son, Mason. And on behalf of all the Wish kids and families, I would like to thank you for attending this event. There are so many kids waiting here right in Prince Albert, and I feel that us as a community can make this happen. If you know a child who is critically ill, or as I like to call them, warriors, you will know how brave and strong they are. Or maybe you have seen what granting a wish can do to a warrior. Puts a smile on their little face, a sparkle in their eye, and is something positive to look forward to. I've seen firsthand where wishes even reunited families that have been struggling to reconnect after diagnosis. It can also start a new chapter of making memories, and that's something that we should all be cherishing. In August of 2016, Mason was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And as a parent hearing that my 5-year-old child has cancer, you feel helpless, in shock, and very overwhelmed. I remember the first thoughts that came to mind: why him? What is this going to do to our family? And how are we going to manage financially? After a couple of weeks, the shock wore off, and we tried to settle into our new normal. During this time, not once did I think he wasn't going to make it. I knew he was very sick, but I also knew that we had a chance because this was Mason. A little boy full of life with positive attitude and very strong-willed. Every day was stressful and tiring, but something I did not expect was the overwhelming love and support from our family, friends, and community. Whether it was messages on his Facebook page, phone calls, visits to the hospital, or our community supporting Mason's dad, who stayed in PA, to try to make life as normal as possible for our twins, Connor and Ethan. Our community support was very strong, and I felt very fortunate to live in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, because during our time in Calgary, I met several families from Alberta and BC who had little to no support. Mason and I were a pretty good team, and he trusted me wholeheartedly. I would tell him that I would never let the doctors and nurses do anything to him that I didn't think was necessary, and he would do it. We spent 14 months in hospital and around McDonald houses in Saskatoon and Calgary, and we were finally able to leave Calgary to go home on September 25th, 2017. And for 45 days, we thought he beat it. For 45 days, he was able to sleep in his own bed, and for 45 days, our family was finally together at home. On November 8th, we were informed that Mason had relapsed, and he passed away on November 25th, 2017, 2 months to the day that we arrived from Calgary back to PA. Sorry, we're well ahead of schedule here, just 1 second, sorry. I'm thankful for the time I was able to spend with Mason. We had many conversations in his 16-month journey. Some were about silly things. Some were about, when I'm not sick anymore, I want to, and then he would give us examples. And some talks were very deep. You may think, how can you have an in-depth conversation with a 6-year-old? Mason was a very smart, funny boy who knew exactly who he was and what he wanted. He had a heart of gold and gave the best hugs and was much wiser than some adults I even know. Some of our conversations would be, if you could wish for anything, what would it be? And every single time he would say, I wish I was home with my brothers, going to school, and spending time with our dog, Jake. That's all he really wanted for himself. One thing he never did say was, why me? Or why I wish I didn't get sick. Mason had a lot of wishes, and most of them were for others. He wanted his brothers to see the Minions in Orlando. He wanted his hospital, which is the RUH hospital, to have bingo nights with walkie-talkies so isolated kids like him could be included in something fun. He wished for a larger-than-life statues of our family in our backyard. You gotta listen to this one. So yeah, quite large of each one of us, all 5 of us, so our dog Jake would not be lonely when he was out there doing his business. So yeah, I think we'll kind of scratch on that. There was just some wishes that he had. He also wished, though, his hospital, which is that RUH hospital, had a medical robot to help kids like him go through treatment. We witnessed this medical robot at the Alberta Children's Hospital in Calgary. The robot will play games, dance, speak several languages, but most importantly, it'll help kids with step-by-step instructions for their medical procedures. Mason was inspired by the nursing staff and wanted to become an acute pediatric nurse. He would have been an amazing nurse because he was taught by the very best. We considered his care team on the third floor his friends, and that they would allow him to assist when possible. To say he idolized these men and women would be an understatement. Make-A-Wish, as well as Make-A-Wish Canada, was able to take two of Mason's wishes a reality. Nurse Mason, an animated robot, reported for duty at the acute pediatric unit at RUH on September 5th of this year. This child of mine taught me more in 7 years than I could have ever taught him. Mason was resilient. And during one of our stretches in Calgary, it was really tough. It was just him and I. And after about 4 days of excruciating pain, which would last 5 to 10 minutes and happen every 30 to 40 minutes and happen day and night, he was finally admitted in the hospital for blood clots in the bladder. I later found out from his primary oncologist that he said this has only happened to about 8 kids in the 15 years he's been practicing. Mason received so many IV fluids for this that he gained 1.5 kilograms in 24 hours. He was sore, in pain, and we were both exhausted. On day 5, Mason's dad called to check on him, and he could hear Mason's screams of pain. I was just about to hang up the phone when Mason insisted on talking to his dad. A few moments later, Mason composed himself, and with a smile on his face, told his dad he was having a pretty good day. My jaw hit the floor. How could you be going through all of this and still say I was having a pretty good day? This is one of the many things my son taught me. And I do believe we as adults, if we could go through our troubled times the way these kids are going through their troubled times, how much better would our lives be? I would like to thank Make-A-Wish Saskatchewan, Make-A-Wish Canada for granting Mason's wish. Because not only did Mason get to fulfill his dream of having a robot and being a nurse, we are forever grateful because as Nurse Mason is now part of his legacy. Thank you.